spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. This is Anthony, producer of 30 Minutes, and I'm here joined with Kevin Phillip Fox from @thebuffalotrail on Twitter. Kevin, how are you doing?
What's up, Anthony? Any day I get to talk football is a great day. I'm super happy to be on the podcast again. We had a little hiatus last week. Gave me a chance to get my thoughts together regarding everything happening in the NFL, and I am so ready to attack some analysis this week. Wild card weekend, baby. Playoffs!
I'm so excited. Playoffs. I think, personally, football has the single greatest playoffs of any sport.
Could not agree more. I love, number one, and then basketball's too.
Competitiveness, and it's just these teams ball it out. It's the best teams in the league batting it out against each other. It's amazing.
Doesn't get better.
The only other playoffs I can think might add up to it, maybe baseball. But that's not what this show's about. We're going to get right into it. This is, I know you've seen this. This is the NFL playoff.
There we go.
The 22-23 season. And so looking at this, what sticks out to you?
Well, I think the big thing that sticks out to me in this bracket, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think if I was a Bills fan, I'm a Bills fan, so it's going to seem obvious, but I think seeing that Buffalo and Cincinnati are both playing backup quarterbacks this weekend, I think it's pretty likely that they face off in the second round, and I think that could be the single biggest matchup of the entire bracket because I think both of those teams could contend for a Super Bowl if they make it. So that's going to be the number one thing that sticks out to me. Number two, I'm extremely excited to watch the first round on the NFC side of the bracket. I think all these games could turn out to be great, close games. I think San Francisco is probably the biggest layup this weekend, but I still think that's going to be a close game, good game. Vikings, Giants, and Buccaneers, Cowboys. I'm very excited to watch both of those games. Yeah. I think those are going to be very, very fun watches.
So, regarding the matchups, in the wild card playoffs, who are we watching? Who do we need to look out for? Who needs to play the best to bring their team to victory? Who's a player that you would say, DFS props, like this is who you want to have? To have that success?
I think that question is twofold, and I'm going to give you two answers. For number one, I'm watching the young quarterbacks on the AFC side of the bracket, not named Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, or Patrick Mahomes, because they're all technically young too. I'm staring dead in the face at Mr. Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, for who has the most to prove. We have a second year and maybe even a third year. We have two very young, first time in the playoffs quarterbacks facing off in the same game. And I think they both have a lot to prove, and I cannot wait to see who comes out on top in that game. That's probably the most exciting matchup on the AFC side of the ball this week. And as far as DFS goes, who am I looking out for? Who am I trying to streamline into all my lineups? I think you got to look for Justin Jefferson to have a big game. I think it's pretty likely that Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb hook up a good amount this weekend. And I think Steph Diggs is going to score a first half touchdown, and they might even put him on ice in the second half if Buffalo has that game enough under control. So those are all the individual players. How about you, Anthony?
So just your comments about Justin Herbert. I want to go over that for a minute.
Yeah.
He has something to prove. He has a chip on his shoulder because he was supposed to be an MVP this year. Everyone was saying LA Chargers in the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert's going to bring then his receiver got hurt. His offensive line got hurt. His secondary got hurt, and they were losing games. Justin Herbert was slinging it, and his receivers were dropping it, and just they couldn't find ways to win. I don't even think they blew out a team once, and that's an offense that I think is top 3 in roster. I think they have a top 3 roster in talent, but with coaching the way it's been and the injuries they've had to deal with, Justin Herbert has not been able to prove himself. And now this is his chance to prove himself, to be the Justin Herbert that we thought he was going to be in the preseason. So with your thoughts on Justin Herbert, he's definitely the guy to watch.
I agree.
Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, you're going to see them have success. Justin Herbert's the only one out of these quarterbacks who has something to prove.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and yeah, you nailed it. It's a talent versus results situation in LA for the Chargers, and right now the disparity between what they could be and what they are is the biggest out of all these playoff teams. This team, you're right, he was supposed to be an MVP candidate. I was just talking about this on Coffee Shop Football. It's really unfortunate. They're right on schedule, but they're not ahead of schedule. And if anything, they're infringing on being behind schedule if they don't start putting together some playoff wins, putting together some more regular season success next year. I might think that it might be time for the Chargers to start looking elsewhere.
For quarterback?
No, for coaching, I should
For
say.
coaching, yeah.
Herbert, you gotta if you have a guy like
he's
that,
your
you gotta roll.
franchise
Yeah,
quarterback for sure.
you gotta
Yeah,
roll
no,
with
for
Herbert
coaching
for
though,
sure.
I could see a coaching change in LA for the Chargers. But with the NFL seeding being the way it is, the Chargers are traveling to Duval to play the Jaguars in their own stadium. Is this how big of an impact is this going to have on Justin Herbert?
It does
being
kind
on
of
the
seem
road?
like Jacksonville's fan base is coming alive a little bit in recent years. I think Trevor Lawrence is inspiring a lot of hope. Travis Etienne, that passing attack finally looking like a competent NFL offense. Doug Peterson deserves all the credit in the world. I'm very excited to see how, the home field advantage definitely should play a factor. It's not like the Chargers have much better home field advantage in LA, given that more people here care about the Rams than the Chargers. But that being said, it'll be very interesting to see how that matchup plays out. It is nice for Trevor in his first ever playoff game to have a home game, but those two quarterbacks are going head to head, and one of them is going to be extremely disappointed this weekend.
I think that's going to be Trevor Lawrence personally.
Wow. Okay.
Since we're on that matchup, who do you think is going to win this? Who do you think is going to maybe potentially play the Chiefs?
Yeah, I definitely foresee the Chargers pulling this one out. I think it's going to be closer than people are giving Jacksonville credit for, but I definitely think the Chargers are going to pull it out. I think they have enough talent to overcome Jacksonville's scrappiness. However, Jacksonville has the culture, and like I said, Doug Peterson deserves all the credit in the world for having them in this position ahead of schedule on a rebuild. People were questioning whether or not Trevor Lawrence was even the guy at the start of the season, and now he's one of the 14 teams leading his team into the playoffs, and that's exciting to say the least. So I think it's going to be Chargers. I think they're going to edge them out, just given that they have a tad bit more experience on the roster. That being said, they both have equal playoff experience, which is nothing, which is definitely exciting to watch. But I think the Chargers have just enough to edge them out.
I think it's going to be a very competitive game. It's going to come down to the wire. I think we're going to see whoever scores last, I think is going to win. It's going to be that close, right down to the wire. So I do have the Chargers winning this just because of the talent on that team. And the Jaguars have struggled. Yeah, the Chargers have lost, but they've lost by 1 or 2 possessions, where the Jaguars got blown out, 4 times this season. So the Jaguars do have where if they're down, they can't get back up, where the Chargers have been able to come back by 2-3 possession deficits.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they show any of that grit that you're talking about them lacking. Because if they're ever going to have it, the playoffs is the time to have it, right?
Oh, for sure. And they're at home with their own crowd. They're going to have the energy, and the Chargers are going to have to deal with that energy. So we'll see how that turns out. But so the player that I think needs to be watched the closest, honestly, is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, because this is their run. This is their chance to win the Super Bowl that they lost.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a run. I want to see a Bills and Bengals championship, but with the seeding, I don't think that'll happen.
It'll be in the divisional round.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I wanted to see that, but I don't think we get to. But I think we might be to see them play, so we'll see.
Right.
Because I just want to see if Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase can team up and finish the job.
Yeah, I mean they got really damn close last year, and they were a great team, and they were a great story, and I still think they're just as great and just as great of a story, and nothing but love to the Bengals and their fans. I do think it's going to be very tough for them to go into Buffalo and knock off the Bills if both of those teams handle their business this weekend, which I'm predicting that they will.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see as it all is in the NFL playoffs, nothing is not interesting in the NFL playoffs. Even blowouts can have an air of
That's why I
interest.
love it.
Yeah.
Like that with the Bills and Patriots game last year. That
Oh my
I
god.
mean, it like usually blowouts are a little bit boring, but it wasn't because we're in the NFL playoffs. It was the
Oh
most
my god.
exciting game in that round. So,
It was awesome.
I absolutely right though. The Bengals going to Buffalo, they will probably lose. I do have the Bills going to the Super Bowl rematch
Oh,
against the
love
Chiefs.
that.
And I think they're gonna take the Chiefs down in that
I
rematch.
love that.
So
Same,
we're
actually.
because we might see them in the championship this time. And
Yeah.
if we see a game as good as the Chiefs Bengals game last year in the championship, that might as
Yeah.
well be the Super Bowl because that's going to be an incredible game.
It'll be
And
tough for anyone on the NFC side of the ball to win the Super Bowl, given that I think the three best teams in the league, in my humble opinion, are
yeah,
Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City.
oh, definitely, yeah,
Most experienced, most battle tested. They have the quarterback X factor over all the other teams on the other side of the ball. I think the Eagles, the 49ers, Dallas, Vikings, they all have a decent chance
it
to
feels like
make a
a
run.
whole different world over there in
Yeah,
the NFC.
it does.
You
It's
don't have these juggernaut quarterbacks
right.
that the AFC has.
It's definitely a little unfortunate to be to be a fan of one of those three teams, given that
Yeah.
I am diehard Bills Mafia. It is a little bit unfortunate knowing that we're going to have to probably run through Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, maybe possibly Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. It just feels like most of the great quarterbacks are on the AFC side.
Oh, I do think, and I'm going to say this right now, an AFC team will win the Super Bowl.
Me too.
I I
I think
I
that's
firmly believe that. But
safe.
Josh Allen, his revenge tour starts with the Dolphins,
Yeah.
who they are starting Skylar Thompson.
Ooh.
And if the Bills pass rush can just give him a little bit of pressure, the
It's
Bills,
tough.
all they have to do is score a field goal to win that game. And so
That's disrespectful. Don't. I didn't say that, fans.
Brian,
That's Anthony. I
Brian,
didn't.
no, Brian's a Dolphins fan, so I'm just giving him a tough time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But
Because
yeah, we might see a competitive game because no matter what, Mike McDaniel is a good
good
coach.
coach.
Their offense is very good. The only issue they have right now is quarterback and maybe a little bit of struggling on this in the secondary. So Josh Allen does have the opportunity to pass over that
Yeah.
secondary. Maybe it'll be a close game. Maybe it'll be a blowout.
It will definitely be a fun one to watch for sure as a Bills fan. I'm anticipating a Bills win. I'm a little afraid. I'm a little nervous of if Miami can find some semblance of a ground game because they were able to attack Buffalo on the ground in Week 16 in the snow game. So I'm a tad nervous for if Week 15, I should say. So I'm a tad nervous for if Miami can get a ground game going, and then they might not need the most efficient performance from Skylar Thompson. But that being said, I think the firepower Buffalo has on the offensive side of the ball, their excellence on
Yeah.
offense, defense, and special teams. They were top 5 DVOA, all three of those categories for the whole season, which is just almost unheard of how well-rounded of a team they are. So I don't foresee the wheels falling off this weekend. If they do have a matchup, Buffalo Cincinnati round 2, I think that's going to be one of the hardest challenges that Buffalo's going to have to face in the playoffs. But I'm very excited to see how it plays out.
Absolutely. Me too. So we're gonna stay in the AFC for a minute. The Bengals and the Ravens. So the Ravens are starting Tyler Huntley. Lamar Jackson is not practicing. I don't know if this is a contract dispute or if he's hurt. I haven't really heard much. What do you think's going on?
Right before we got on the pod, I actually just saw an update from Lamar himself on Twitter. He sprained his PCL 6 weeks
Right.
ago.
I did hear about that.
And it's been commonly understood throughout NFL circles that he was expected to be back before the end of the regular season, and he just wasn't. And now it's bleeding into the playoffs. Lamar is stating that he has inflammation in the knee and he's not 100% recovered, which
Okay.
is understandable. It's difficult. It's a difficult pill to swallow as a football fan because we all want that matchup. We all want
Absolutely.
Burrow versus Jackson. We want every team at their best. I mean,
Yep.
So it's definitely unfortunate to know that the Bengals are going to have a little bit of an easier path, just like Buffalo will with Skylar Thompson. It is those are probably the two biggest letdowns of the wild card weekend is that both of those quarterbacks who had great seasons aren't going to be leading their teams out of the tunnel. That's very sad.
Yeah, I agree, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you beat the Dolphins in the wild card round, you advance to the divisional, but you lost, or the Bills lost against the Dolphins. How much better would it have felt to beat Tua in the wild card
Right.
round? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like, so
Yeah.
to beat the starter
Same with the Bengals.
would
Yeah, I'm
be
sure the
it's a much
Bengals have.
different feeling. Yeah.
Sure, the Bengals have the same level of disappointment. I mean, don't get me wrong. The teams that are benefiting aren't gonna, they're not gonna be sending any apology letters anytime soon. You
Oh,
play
no.
who's across from you, no matter what.
It's next man up. This is the
That's football,
NFL.
exactly. So
Absolutely.
you got to treat everybody like they're
I mean,
standing in your way.
Brock Purdy is a beautiful example of
For a
that.
beautiful example,
You
exactly.
know,
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, he was almost undrafted. He was Mr. Irrelevant, and he's undefeated.
he's been lights out. He's been absolutely phenomenal, and
And
I can't wait to see.
Shanahan's offense and Christian McCaffrey, they've been a huge help in that with George
Definitely,
Kittle and the defense being the way they are. But I mean,
absolutely.
that kind of, I mean, there's 11 people on that field,
Hmm.
not one. So your quarterback may be hurt, but there are still 10 other people that aren't the quarterback to operate and to win that game. And I think that
Exactly.
with the quarterback talk, I mean, yeah, the Bengals, because the Bengals are the Ravens' kryptonite. The
Yeah,
Bengals seem to beat the Ravens whenever they match up.
it does
So
feel like that.
it does.
Yeah. I'm going to be paying close attention to how the Ravens secondary performs against the stud wide receivers. You talked about Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Trenton
What a
Irwin.
wide receiver room though. Like you just said
I
those three names,
know.
and I got chills.
It's
I,
crazy. It's ridiculous how good. That's why the Bengals are one of the scariest teams in the NFL, because those receivers can beat anybody. You can't man up against the Bengals. They just have too much firepower.
right.
And Burrow is so efficient at getting them the ball. Really, the only way to beat them is to get pressure, and it's hard to get pressure without blitzing, and you can't blitz without taking some guys off those guys, and then they'll be open. And Burrow's the guy to get the ball to them. They're a scary team. They're a threatening,
Yeah.
scary team, and I think the Ravens have a good enough secondary to slow them down, because don't get me wrong, the Ravens have Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith and Patrick
Studs.
Queen, a couple great linebackers. They have, if anybody's going to slow them down, it's going to be the Ravens. The question is, can their offense get enough going to offset whatever their defense is able to do? It's going to be a really, really fun game to watch. Less fun without Lamar, for sure.
Yeah, the Bengals are going to come in mad. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to
Oh,
be ready to
definitely.
win a game.
And we know they were fired up about the way the NFL handled the loss of a game. The Bengals have been
Yeah.
very vocally upset about that, and
As they should be. They lost the first round bye. So
I mean, so did Buffalo. It's
yeah,
it's
they
it's
both did.
hard to. There wasn't really a perfect solution,
No.
so it's hard for anybody to, and especially given that a man's health was on the line. It's really important that we understand that football comes second to
Yep.
safety. So as hard as that is, as hard of a pill to swallow, I mean, really, other than Kansas City, nobody benefited from it. So it's hard to, and that's just Kansas City. They seem to kind of have that situation going. They're sort of like the new Patriots. They're always in position to capitalize on the benefits that they're granted. And
Yeah.
that it is what it is. I'm not hating
Right.
or anything.
Of course not. I mean,
Everybody's
they win games. I mean,
they're
Mahomes and
great.
Travis Kelsey,
Mahomes is
you
going to be
can't
the
stop them.
MVP, and he deserves
Yeah,
it. And
absolutely.
that is what it is. I'm very excited to watch the AFC side of the bracket play out.
Me too.
We haven't really talked much about the NFC side.
That's right. We are halfway through our show, so we will transition over to the NFC. So the first matchup I do want to talk about, the 49ers and the Seahawks. The Seahawks barely getting into the playoffs.
Yeah,
The
squeaking.
the Lions getting eliminated for
Getting
the
the
Seahawks to
shaft.
make it.
If you won't say it as the homer, I'll say it. They got the shaft. Some bad officiating
Oh,
helped Seattle get into the playoffs. I'm banging the homer drum for my homie over here. He's too modest. His team had a hell of a run. You deserve all the credit in the world, man. You've been sticking by the lines through everything, and you stood by Goff. You saw what you saw in Goff, what you needed to see in Goff to believe in him, and I'm happy to admit that I was wrong about him. I'm not sure if he's gonna be the one.
that's good to hear. Not
Yeah.
because I told you so, but
Yeah.
but because you're right. Jared Goff had a very rough start, but he's getting it. He's doing a lot better. He's like he's the same Goff that was in the Super Bowl, maybe even better now.
Yeah,
So he's sticking around.
it's beautiful to watch coaches like Dan Campbell and coaches like Doug Peterson and coaches like Sean McDermott, who put people first, Coaches like Zach Taylor. It's great to see them have success because football is cool and analytics are cool and this, that, and the third, but it's a family. A locker
Oh,
room
for
is a family.
sure.
And I think Detroit really embodies that with players like Jamal Williams being able to be themselves, becoming one of the most beloved players in the NFL seemingly overnight in his time in Detroit because he's so funny.
Yeah, and he was messing around during pregame once, and after the game, it was I think Ben Johnson and it was Brad Holmes got questioned, and Dan Campbell. And they said, "Why do you let Williams mess around before the game starts?" He says, "You don't tell that man not to be him. You
Exactly.
don't tell because he brings that energy, he brings that vibe onto that team. You do not tell him to stop because then that energy's gone."
It's a beautiful
And that
thing.
it
Yeah.
is. I absolutely agree.
And so that's just, we're going to pour one out for the Lions,
Yeah.
just that's the obligatory. But here we are in the playoffs, San Francisco versus Seattle. Great, actually surprisingly great matchup. I mean, I think San Francisco dominated Seattle when they played in the regular season the second time with Brock Purdy. I'm looking for Seattle to show a little bit of fight. I'm looking for them to say we aren't that horrible performance. And look, Geno Smith's been written off. He ain't right back. Here he is once again, first round of the playoffs. Nobody's giving the Seattle Seahawks a chance. It's a 9-point spread. I personally, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna take Seattle to cover. I don't think they're gonna win the game, but I think they can cover easily.
I like that pick. Okay, I like that. I mean,
What about you?
even Kenneth Walker, with the 49ers being the best rush defense in the league in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to shut down Kenneth Walker. And then Geno Smith is going to have to air it out.
Right.
And yeah, he can throw, but he throws interceptions.
He does.
I mean, every other game he has at least 2 interceptions. It's kind of bad. And if you
Yeah.
throw an interception against this team, you're going to lose.
They're going to capitalize. Yeah, they have the offensive firepower, especially on the ground and especially through the short game with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, it's tough.
So, Seahawks fans, and I know you were rooting for the Lions, and you're very happy the Lions beat the Packers because you probably didn't want to play the Packers again, even though it would have been really sweet to see the Packers go down in the playoffs again, but it's even sweeter to see them not go at all.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I do think Brock Purdy and McCaffrey and Shanahan's team is going to take Seattle.
Yeah.
And cover. I'm going to say right now.
You're Mr. Stay away from big lines, so that's a big ball move for you.
It is. I don't see anything special about the Seahawks. They beat a bad Rams team.
They did. I guess I'm more so looking at their coaching, the defense.
I mean, Pete Carroll's a veteran. He's been in the league forever. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So there's that argument. But San Francisco is just operating at a different level, and it's insane to watch Mr. Irrelevant do what he's been doing.
It's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing.
So the Minnesota Vikings are taking on the New York Giants. This is a rematch game because in the regular season they balled out. They both needed to win that game. So what's going to happen here? Is this going to be a revenge game? Are the Giants going to say we are for real? Are the Vikings going to say, yeah, we won 11 games by 1 possession, we're going to win this one by 2? What's going to happen here?
This is one of the most exciting games on the schedule. I would liken this game to the Chargers and Jags game in that these teams both have a lot to prove.
I like that comparison. I would have to agree.
I think on each side of the bracket, there's that one matchup that's like, I don't want to miss this game. I don't want to miss a second of this game if I can help it. Vikings Giants has all the intrigue of Brian Dable, Coach of the Year candidate, turns it around, brings the corpse of Danny Dimes to the playoffs, even though Danny Dimes has come alive in a way that nobody thought he could. He is a legitimate top 16 quarterback in the NFL, and I don't think you can debate that anymore. He might be doofy as hell, but he's actually a hell of a good quarterback, and especially on the ground, especially when he gets out of the pocket. So this matchup, I think it's going to come down to, I think the Vikings have a very leaky secondary. So I think those ancillary weapons on the Giants, like Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton, I think they're going to find some holes. I think they're going to exploit the Vikings a little bit. I just think this game comes down to the Vikings are a little bit more experienced and they're a little bit better at winning close games. So I do think the Vikings will win. And I do think that they will probably – the covering is hard because it's, a 3-point line, right?
Yeah.
That's a tough cover. I think I'll take the Vikings to win and cover, but it's going to be close. I'm excited.
It's been a while since Kirk Cousins he's seen the playoffs. But now he has Justin Jefferson.
Right.
I mean, and I think just Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson can beat the Giants team, because they've just been doing so good. I mean, even Kirk Cousins being, the veteran quarterback that he is. I'm a Michigan State fan, so I've been watching Kirk Cousins' career since college.
Nice.
And so he still has that that skill in him. He still has that talent to be a good quarterback. As we saw this year, he's enough to be a winning quarterback. And
Absolutely.
now he has a weapon like Jefferson. I think that, and there's not really many players on the Giants defense that will be able to stop him.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being the game that puts Kirk into another bracket of consideration for great quarterback. I think he's been underrated his whole career. And somehow, some way, maybe a little overrated too, because there was a time when people thought he was a top 5, top 10 quarterback. I think he's comfortably in that middle tier, and I think it suits him well if he has a great slate of weapons, a great complement of running backs and defense. I think Kirk can win. I think he's one of those quarterbacks that you can win with. You might not win often because of Kirk, but you probably will win with Kirk. So it'll be really fun to watch. I do think that the Vikings will advance to the divisional round. What about you?
Yeah, I think the Vikings are going to win. I just haven't seen enough good from the Giants. I've really just been seeing bad recently.
Yeah.
Even when they beat the Commanders, it was right down to the end after tying with them first. Like it wasn't looking good. And the Commanders are a team that you have to beat, especially in that division. So I think that what?
Well, I was going to say, speaking of beating the Commanders, the next matchup that we're going to talk about, the Cowboys got their doors blown off by the Commanders.
That was wild, and just for that reason, I have Tampa Bay winning that game because at first I had Dallas winning. I knew that they were going to make it into the playoffs, but they just played so awful. You can't do
Anthony,
that.
That's an upset
when you're trying
special.
to get that first round bye. You're trying to take the Eagles down and get that first round bye, and you get blown out by the Washington Commanders.
It was definitely a bad look.
You're not going to win the wild card round against the Buccaneers with Tom Brady.
I love that you're making that call because that's bold. We need boldness. I like the hot take. I do think I'm going to pick Dallas to win the game, but that game is going to that's another great game. I think apart from the 2 games where we have backup quarterbacks, unfortunately playing, I think all these games have some intrigue. Even those games, they'll be fun to watch. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are fun to watch. All the games are going to be fun to watch. It's the NFL playoffs, like we've said.
But I think. Oh, sorry. Go on. Keep going.
No, I was going to say Bucks Cowboys has some of the most intrigue of them all because the GOAT's playing. It might be the 47-year-old skeleton of the GOAT, but he's playing. He's freaking playing.
I think that with that Mike Evans 3-touchdown, 200-yard game, I think they figured out what was wrong on offense. Honestly, I think that something clicked. And I know they stick with the right side of the field where the Panthers secondary was the weakest, but they're going to do the same thing with the Cowboys. They're going to find that weak point. Tom Brady's going to say, he looks like he's a little slow today. I'm going to pass that direction because he has that vision. He has that eye.
Right.
He's going to say, Mike, go that way. I'm going to pass it to you. We're going to score a touchdown. We're going to beat the Cowboys. I think that Tampa Bay figured out their offense.
And another thing, too, is Trayvon Diggs is one of the most aggressive corners in the league. If you can get him to bite on an out and up or like a slant and go, it's very possible that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the guys to beat them over the top. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cade Otton even has looked pretty solid this season. So it's definitely going to be a matchup to watch. Tampa's passing offense against Dallas's passing defense, because Dallas's defense midway through the season looked unstoppable. They looked unbeatable. And now they're kind of coming into the playoffs looking a bit pedestrian. They're still good, but they're overrated. The Commanders took advantage of them.
Yeah, and I know that old man Brady is going to have to look out for Micah Parsons because he's going to be after.
Oh, you are so right.
He is quick on his feet. He breaks through that line. Tom Brady might as well just go down because
you're not wrong. He does that too. Brady, Brady has that like pre-sack where he sees he's going to get sacked.
Yeah, exactly. If you see Micah Parsons, it's already too late.
You just take a seat. Let's throw some props in, man. We're towards the end of the 30 minutes, but I would love to get some props in. If you have any off the top of your head, because I got some.
Yeah, because I have Jamar Chase getting his over for sure. Just because I think that offense against Baltimore, I think they're gonna be just airing it out to get a quick lead in early, and then talk about at the end. And then my second prop was this is risky. I don't really like this, but I want to say Zay Jones, just because he's
Ooh,
been being used a lot in that
yeah,
offense. So Trevor Lawrence and him they're connecting well. The Chargers haven't been able to stop the pass very much, and so I think that Trevor Lawrence and Zay Jones will connect a good amount of times. I want to say over on Zay Jones. He's good in the end zone, so
I love it.
over on touchdowns for
I
Zay
love it.
Jones. What do
I
you got?
am looking at James Cook rushing yards. His over under is set at 33 and a
Wow.
half.
Okay.
And, I could see Buffalo taking a big lead in this game, and I could see them leaning on the run to sort of just coast them through the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Maybe put Josh's elbow and ankle, which are both banged up right now because he's freaking Superman and he plays through everything. Maybe put him on ice a little early. I could definitely see the running game being more heavily utilized. And James Cook's been fantastic. He's been getting 6-7 yards to carry last couple weeks. So I think that's a good bet. And then I'm also looking at the over on Richie James receiving yards for the Giants because I think the Vikings secondary is their weakness, and Richie James has been taking advantage of matchups all season. For some reason, the Giants, who have a practice squad of NFL wide receivers as their starters, are great through the air. Like they're not like a top 5 offense or anything like that, but Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, and Darius Slayton have been getting it done all year, and I think they continue to do so this weekend.
I think attacking that Vikings defense, which have allowed I think the third most passing yards of any defense in the league right now. I think that's a very good pick because I think those receivers are going to be targeted against that secondary, and they're going to see
Yeah.
a lot of success.
Yeah, no, those are my props. I think those are free money. So hammer
I
them if
like
you
it
can.
for
Heck
sure.
yeah.
So I do want to recap our picks. So there will be a game pick show tomorrow. It's a special game pick show with a special guest that will be announced on the spot tomorrow. With Brian McFadden of Legit Football. So make sure you it's tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to
There
be
you go.
Pacific time for everyone in the East. So make sure to join us there. We're gonna be picking. But right now, since we're not gonna be on tomorrow's show, we do want to say our picks. Kevin, can you recap your picks for the wild card round?
I got Buffalo, Cincinnati, Chargers, and then I got San Francisco, Minnesota, Dallas.
All right. And then I'm picking the Bills to beat the Dolphins. I'm picking the Bengals, the Chargers, the 49ers, the Vikings, and the Buccaneers.
There we
to
go.
beat the
Almost all the
Cowboys.
same, but last one switched it up.
Yeah. So hey, we'll see. I like it when we differ.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's more fun than if we agree on everything, because then one game's like, oh, we both got it wrong. But
Right.
it's more fun to see like, hey, I got this right, you got this one wrong.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun.
I'm
So
stoked, man.
we are doing a playoff pool. It's me, Kevin, Brian, Jimmy Ray from at NFL Stats, and my brother Tyler, who guested on the show last week. So we're doing a playoff pool, and I will keep everybody updated on the success of that pool. I'm going to put it up on the screen next Thursday when we do our Thursday show, so everyone can see what our predictions are looking like. But make sure to join in for the game pick show tomorrow. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football. Kevin, any last thoughts, any last words before we sign off here?
I haven't had a chance to jump on the podcast since the DeMar Hamlin stuff, so I just want to say that the prayers have always been with him and his family and the community that are fighting that fight. And it's really, really great to know that he's not only back in Buffalo, but discharged from the hospital. What a miracle that is. And also, yeah, just tell your loved ones that you love them, hug your people, man. It's important, and football is great, but so is people in love. We got to keep all that at the forefront of everything we do.
And I think that was a very good example of putting football aside when life is when life is happening.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think that he's healthy, or he's healthier.
He's getting there, yeah.
He's back in Buffalo. He's with his family.
Beautiful thing.
It is, and we were all, the country got quiet.
Right. It was a tough couple days, but
it was very hard to podcast the day after that incident.
I wasn't able to. Yeah, I had to take some time. It was very
tough.
Yeah.
We tried because we want to be able to give everybody regular content.
Right. You need your outlets. You need your distractions when
Yep.
stuff's tough. Thank you, Thomas. We appreciate you.
So that's it for today. Make sure to join in 11:30 a.m. tomorrow for the Game Pick Show. This has been 30 minutes of football with Legit Football.
Peace.
See ya.
That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.